an era when deities and mortals shared the same lands, there existed a powerful god whose might, mastery, and intellect shaped humanity's destiny. Ogun, the formidable god of iron, battle, and creation, was far more than a blacksmith. He was the divine force who forged not only weapons, but the fate of the earliest warriors. Yet his tale began with a prophecy, one that would spark an epic struggle between gods and mankind, and give birth to an invention that would alter civilization forever. So settle in, for this is African Myths Unveiled. In the ancient realm of the Yoruba, before the rise of kings and towering cities, lived a mighty god known by countless names. To his worshippers, he was Ogun, the sacred blacksmith, maker of every tool and weapon, and the fierce god of war. His secret forge, buried deep within vast forests, echoed with hammer strikes, roaring fire, and the metallic breath of molten iron. Ogun's skill was legendary. His weapons, strong and alive, were believed to carry souls of their own. Each sword, each spear, each crafted tool was not merely shaped, but awakened by Ogun's divine touch. Yet Ogun was not just a maker. He was a warrior, a hunter, a god balancing destruction with creation. His strength was dreaded, his wisdom revered by gods and humans alike. But despite his might, Ogun had one burden: solitude. The other deities of the Yoruba pantheon dwelled far from the mortal realm, reigning from the skies, waters, and depths of the earth. But Ogun's kingdom was the forge, and within its fiery heart, he yearned for a companion worthy of his craft, someone who could wield his creations and fight beside him in the divine wars that never ceased. One fateful day, as Ogun labored alone at his anvil, a visitor appeared, Orunmila, the god of wisdom and one of the most revered among the Yoruba gods. With his boundless sight into the unseen, Orunmila gazed upon the mighty Ogun and understood his longing. "You forge weapons powerful enough to shatter empires," Orunmila said, his voice echoing through the glade. "Yet you remain alone. Why labor in silence when others could fight with what you create?" Ogun lifted his hammer from the forge, flames dancing across his bronze skin. "I am the god of iron," he replied, "but even iron cannot battle by itself. I need warriors to give purpose to my work." Orunmila nodded, a wise smile spreading across his face. "Then let a pact be made, Ogun, a bond between gods and mankind. You shall forge not only weapons but warriors. They will bear your tools and fight your wars, and in return you shall gain a reward beyond all imagination." Thus the divine covenant was born, a pact. From that sacred pact would emerge the first warriors of the Yoruba people. Under Orunmila's divine guidance, Ogun began teaching mortals the ancient secrets of smithing and the discipline of war. Together they forged weapons of immense strength and fought in battles that would shape the destiny of nations. In return, Ogun was granted not only the devotion of humankind, but their eternal loyalty. For those who wielded his blades would forever carry his spirit. With hardened hands and unbreakable will, Ogun toiled endlessly at his forge, birthing the first sword, the first spear, and the first shield. Every strike of his hammer molded more than metal. It carved the fate of the world itself. The covenant between God and man was sealed in sacred fire, giving rise to warriors who dared to defy even the divine. Yet such power was never without consequence. For even the strongest gods can fall into struggle with their own creations. As Ogun's warriors marched to battle, they discovered that the deities they once worshipped could be as perilous as their mortal foes. And Ogun, the god of iron and creation, would soon realize that even a pact forged in divine fire could be tested by forces beyond imagination. His forge roared brighter than ever, flames reflecting his passion as each weapon glowed with divine energy. Energy radiated from the forge as each weapon pulsed with divine power. The swords blazed with fire, the spears quivered as if alive, and the shields shimmered with sacred protection. Having completed his creations, Ogun summoned the mortals to bear them. Across distant villages, word of the god's holy pact spread swiftly, igniting a new era of warriors. The people gathered with reverence to learn the craft of the blacksmith. Ogun, ever the god of action, spoke little but taught through deed. He chose the strongest among mortals and trained them in the sacred ways of combat. How to strike with precision, command the rhythm of war, and channel the very force of Ogun himself. Among these chosen few was a fearless young man named Adadi, whose heart burned with purpose. He yearned to prove himself worthy of the divine blacksmith and his people's pride. Having heard the tales of Ogun's forge, Adadi ventured deep into the shadowed forest where the flames of destiny roared. Reaching the sacred anvil, he called out, "Ogun, I have come to learn, to serve, and to fight." The god turned slowly, his burning gaze meeting the mortal's steady eyes. "You seek strength," Ogun said, his voice echoing like thunder, "but strength demands sacrifice," Ogun said, his voice rolling like thunder across the forge. "Are you prepared to pay that price?" Adadi, unwavering, nodded firmly. "I am ready to give whatever it takes, Ogun. I wish to fight for the gods and for my people." The divine blacksmith's fiery eyes softened as he gestured toward the glowing tools. "Then let the forging of your spirit begin." Under Ogun's vigilant gaze, Adadi learned the sacred art of smithing, molding metal with his hands, channeling the discipline and focus of his teacher. Each lesson was more than craftsmanship. It was the shaping of a warrior's soul. Ogun taught him patience, endurance, and courage, lessons of fire and resolve. As the days passed, Adadi's strength grew, and his bond with the god deepened, both master and student united by flame and purpose. At last, when the mortal was ready, Ogun presented him with his first weapon, a blade forged in the heart of divine fire, gleaming with celestial brilliance. Adadi grasped it with reverence, feeling the pulse of divine energy through his veins. The sword was no longer metal, it was alive, a sacred bond between god and man. "Go, Adadi," Ogun declared proudly. "You are no longer mortal. You are a warrior of Ogun, and with this sword you shall unleash the power of..." The gods themselves stirred as Adadi's heart raced with the fire of battle, believing that with Ogun's weapons, no force could stand against him. Yet he did not know that the wars ahead would test not only his strength but his very soul. The gods, proud and all-seeing, watched from above, weaving their own schemes for Ogun's chosen. As Adadi and his fellow warriors marched to the fields of destiny, they found themselves not just battling men, but divine beings as well. Ogun had forged weapons of immense power, but his warriors would soon learn that not every god was their ally. Among the heavens stood deities of shadow, chaos, and endless war, each pursuing their own secret purpose. The first great conflict erupted swiftly, a brutal clash between Ogun's warriors and the tidal legions of Ogun, god of the sea, whose waves struck like thunder. The earth quaked beneath their feet and the sky darkened with gathering storms. Adadi, sword lifted high, led his brothers into the storm of war. Each weapon glowed with Ogun's essence, blazing through the chaos. With every strike, the ocean's fury waned, divine power surging through mortal hands. The battle roared from dawn till dusk, and at last Ogun's chosen, their skill unmatched and their weapons divine, emerged victorious. Victory was theirs, but it came with a haunting price. Though Ogun had fallen, his last breath carried a vow of vengeance against Ogun and his mortal kin. It was then the true depth of Ogun's pact with humanity began to unfold. His weapons granted unmatched power, yet the gods were not easily humbled and the celestial balance began to tremble. The war between Ogun's chosen and Ogun's divine legions was merely the opening act. As the mortals wielded his sacred forge's gifts, they invited challenges beyond imagination, not only from the heavens but from their own hearts. The gods, proud and wary, watched as Ogun's flame spread across the mortal world, unsettling their dominion. Among them was Shango, the Thunder Lord, whose power was matched only by his wrath. Though he once respected Ogun, jealousy festered as the blacksmith's warriors grew in strength. Summoning Ogun to his radiant storm palace, Shango thundered, "You've granted too much to men, Ogun. With every battle they rise higher, perhaps high enough to defy us all." The gods themselves raged in disbelief. "How can this stand?" Shango thundered. Ogun, unshaken, faced him boldly. "Mortals are not my foes, Shango. They are my comrades. They fight using my creations to guard their world, to defend what the gods abandoned." But Shango's voice tore through the clouds, furious and echoing. "You disrupt the order, Ogun. If this continues, our reign will crumble. You've gone too far, and I will not let the heavens fall." The air between them burned with divine tension. The pact Ogun forged with humankind had now ignited chaos among the pantheon. Once silent deities began to stir from their thrones. Yet Ogun, the god of iron and valor, stood his ground. "I will not revoke my gift, Shango. Mortals deserve their strength. They've earned it with bravery, faith, and sacrifice." Refusing to yield, Shango unleashed a storm of fury. Lightning split the skies, thunder shook the cosmos, and winds howled like raging beasts. "Then face the storm," he roared. The clash was cataclysmic. Thunder and flame collided, lightning struck steel, and the earth quaked beneath their divine battle as Ogun's blazing weapons met Shango's roaring tempest. The two gods clashed with the rage of creation itself, each driven to shape the destiny of all worlds. Yet amid the storm of fire and thunder, Ogun began to see the truth. His mortal warriors were watching, eyes wide with awe and awakening. They now understood that divinity could be defied not through might alone, but through will, through courage that burned brighter than the heavens. In that instant, a bridge formed between the god and his chosen, the shared spark of rebellion and faith. When the fury subsided, both deities stood battered and silent, the skies clearing, the earth still trembling from their power. Ogun, ever the forger of both metal and destiny, extended his hand toward Shango. "Perhaps," he said, his tone tempered like cooled iron, "there is a wiser path. The mortals have proven worthy. We must guide, not govern. Let them fight and flourish as we have." Shango, breathing deeply, studied his rival's face before gripping his hand at last. "I still question your ways, Ogun," he rumbled, "but I see the truth in their strength." And so, the gods forged a fragile peace, one born from conflict, yet destined to reshape heaven and earth alike. That moment not only restored order among the gods, but revealed a greater truth: the strength of humankind, when guided with wisdom, could spark a new age of harmony between heaven and earth. Ogun's covenant with humanity remains one of the most profound legends in Yoruba tradition, rooted deeply in West African heritage, especially in Nigeria. It embodies the timeless virtues of craftsmanship, courage, and devotion, qualities still honored in many African societies today. The pact between the divine blacksmith and mankind also reflects the belief in self-mastery and mutual reverence between mortals and deities. In Yoruba thought, existence itself is a bridge linking the human and spiritual worlds, and Ogun's story reminds us that true power lies in balance. It teaches that strength must walk hand in hand with humility, that wisdom is born from struggle, and that cooperation is the key to lasting creation. So tell me, which African myth would you like to explore next? Share your thoughts in the comments, and remember to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss the next journey through the mystical realms of African mythology.